At any stage, there's a lot of great games in development, and chances are some of those games are inspired by some of our favorite games as well. So when I recently heard about Alzara Radiant Echoes, I was instantly intrigued. Now this game is currently in development and just went live on Kickstarter last week and was fully funded within 48 hours. So there's a lot of people excited here, and I am one of them. So I just had a great interview with Emma from Studio Camelia, the developer of Alzara Radiant Echoes. I wanted to discuss actually developing this game, stepping away from a AAA dev, and what it means to kickstart a project and everything that goes with that. It's very interesting, so I hope you stick around. Before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching here on YouTube. Otherwise, if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, make sure to follow the program and rate or review if you can. Really helps boost the show and that algorithm. So I hope you guys enjoy this interview. It's really great. There's a lot of great information, and I hope you guys get excited about this great JRPG that is available to back right now. Well, Emma, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and clearing out your schedule for me today. How are you going? It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's going pretty great. We've been able to reach our funding goal for our Kickstarter campaign, so it's quite a fiesta in the team at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's I'm sure you guys are over the moon with where you're at. As of right now, there's 2,621 backers. I can see it's showing me in Australian dollars because I'm in Australia, so that's well over the 100% funding goal, which is awesome. Let's set the stage a little bit for people who aren't familiar with you and the studio. Tell me who you are, what your background is in all this. I'm really interested to get to know this particular studio because this looks like a really great passion project, but I just want to kind of shed the light on the studio and the people making it.
Yeah, it definitely is. So to introduce myself first, so I'm Emma Delage. I'm the CEO and creative director at the Studio Camelia, which is an independent studio established a couple of years ago. We are based in France. This is where our headquarters are, but we are actually a fully remote team spread across France mostly, but we also have some people in Canada. In total, we're a team of 14 full-time people, plus some extra people who come in support during different times of the production. And what's great with Studio Camelia is that we are a studio that wants to create and build an expertise on JRPGs. The reason for that is, well, first of all, we love JRPGs. For me, this is my childhood dream. Since I discovered Final Fantasy X, I was like, wow, there are actually people making games like that, and actually you can work in this industry. So yeah, I was like, yeah, someday I'm going to create my own studio. And so yeah, 15 years later, then Studio Camelia was born. And so yeah, it's definitely a passion for us, but it's also, something that we noticed being members of the JRPG community. We saw that there is a kind of a lack of some freshness in the genre, and that there are lots of gamers who are waiting for more new content and who maybe are not very happy with the way things are evolving at the moment, with the genre being more towards action, whereas strategy also has a great place. And turn-based is something that we definitely love, and we think that we can bring something to the genre. So yeah, here we are. We are currently developing Alzara Radiant Echoes, which is a turn-based RPG set in a Mediterranean-inspired world.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I you guys had emailed me maybe a week or so before everything went live, and I couldn't make it because the time difference. It would have been like 3:00 in the morning here during the whole thing. So I'm glad that we can connect, and I can still kind of play catch up. And I've had a chance to check out all the other videos and all the other content. So I'm looking forward to getting to know the studio more, getting to know you more, and try and again shed some light on the game, because this looks like a really special project. Speaking of games, of course, because this is a JRPG, RPG related show, what is your favorite game of all time? I usually like to break the ice with the guests and try and, at the top of the program, what's your favorite thing? Is it one of the influences for the project, or is it something else? Or?
Yeah, definitely an influence on the project, but is it the main one? It's really hard to answer that, to be honest. Yeah, I'm gonna answer with the game I spent the most hour playing, which would be Final Fantasy X.
Nice.
Which I really know by heart. But yeah, so yeah, I would say that's my favorite game ever. But very close to that, there is also Golden Sun.
Yep.
That was, I think, my first true JRPG, I would say. I used to play Pokemon, that kind of JRPGs, but well, it's not to the level of
Yes.
Golden Sun. And yeah, this really marked me as a young gamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think FF10 has a very special place in my heart.
Definitely. I love Final Fantasy X. That's one of the ones that I really emotionally bonded with because of the voice actors back in the day. And it had a very profound effect on me, as did Golden Sun. I mean, I recently replayed Golden Sun 1 and 2 last year, and I was just so in love with the series all over again. So it's great to hear, like, as somebody actually approaching the genre, wearing Golden Sun very proudly, saying this is one of the influences. That's great. That's one of the things that drew me to the campaign. So you've been with Studio Camelia for a couple of years now, and you guys are scattered all across France and a little bit in Canada. But you've also had experience in bigger studios. Is that right? So you've come from one of the big guys, and you wanted to branch off and do your own thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the studio was officially established a couple of years ago, but I've been on this adventure since almost 3 years, and it's been in the back of my head since I'm 15, maybe. So it's a very long-term project. But yeah, before starting Studio Camelia, I used to work in different video game companies. I started with at an independent game studio that was at the time doing Facebook and mobile game, just to tell you like how long ago it was.
Yep.
Then I got very lucky. I was able to join the French Square Enix team. So kind of a, fangirl dream achieved. So that was great. Sadly, I joined the team when there was a kind of reorganization within the company, so I couldn't stay. And so I found another opportunity at Ubisoft, where I spent most of my career working every time within the development team. So I worked on several brands such as the Rabbids, Just Dance, spent a lot of time on Ghost Recon as well. And then, climbing up the ladder, I was able to get to some more strategic roles and overviewing some other projects such as Watch Dogs 3 or Beyond Good and Evil 2, for instance. But yeah, I've always wanted to still be part of the production team. And when I left Ubisoft, it was after COVID. I moved to the south of France, so in Montpellier, and I joined an independent publisher there. And every day, actually, I was, talking with developers who dared starting their own studio. And I was like, wow, when is it going to be my turn, actually? Because I've had this dream and, so yeah, when I felt ready, I was like, yeah, no, I'm off to do that. So that was three years ago.
Wow, that's great. I love to hear people having the experience of working with the bigger teams, and that way it kind of gives you context for how to maybe like a bit of a blueprint for how to do things your own way. When it comes to starting your own studio, I mean, that's a very broad question, but like, what exactly do you have to have in mind? Do you have to have a concept for a game and then you try and find some freelance people and then start building on ideas? Is it just as simple as that, or are there other things involved in doing it?
So for me, it was very clear that from the beginning, we would be a JRPG development studio. So the choice was quite quick to make. But you need to when you take this leap of faith, you need to talk in terms of values and vision for the company. And having worked in big AAA studios, I was faced with, periods of crunch, burnout, toxic management practices, and you are quickly faced with the responsibilities of what creating a studio entails. And so I was like, it's actually out of the question that I start a studio with the same principle. I want to make a studio where it's possible to make games in a healthy way. and all the while making games that we know our players are going to like, because, well, that's the end goal, to make sure that our games are loved by our players. And so, you can have a lot of game ideas, but, some of them you can exploit them, or some are just ideas and they should stay there. But so I wanted to have this approach of, okay, so first project of the studio, we need to produce something that we can definitely deliver. So the scope of the project has to be reasonable. Even if the team is going to be composed of experienced people, we need to make sure that we can ship it. And being a new company, it means that you have everything to start from scratch, new processes, new rules, and all. So yeah, the way I approached the conception for Alzara was really about having a scope that was mastered, and also listening to what players were waiting for. And so I think it was in the summer of 2021, I ran out a survey. I sent it on Facebook groups, on Twitter, on Reddit, on many subreddits, saying, hey, we're a new JRPG development studio. We want to listen to you. What would you guys like to have? And so we had some assumptions about the game we wanted to make. And so thanks to the survey, we got more than 1,000 answers. That was huge.
It's great.
We got a very accurate survey that helped us, confirming or removing some hypotheses we had in terms of development for Alzara.
Yeah. Okay. That's great, because you're getting real-time feedback for the exact niche. Because I mean, JRPGs, I suppose it's very broad, but at the same time, it's also very niche. So it's a very focused group of people that want a specific thing. And I suppose you're trying to fill that gap in the market that just isn't there. And I find, turn-based RPGs, there's not a lot of them these days, and it's not really the AAA companies doing them anymore. It's more indie devs filling that gap, which is great. Now you're.
Well, I think.
Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was a bit triggered. I wouldn't say that JRPGs are a niche. I would say it's a subculture.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That not a lot of people really understand. It's like people who like anime and you don't watch anime and then you find that weird. Well, that's a bit kind of the same perception to me,
Yeah.
When you look at Sea of Stars and the fact that they had more than 5 million players, I don't think you can call that a niche.
Yeah.
It's just that, people have been, the genre has evolved, and companies like Square Enix or Bandai Namco with AAA games, they have to reach a mainstream audience, and mainstream means, games that can make more than 10 million players. So yeah, this is the hardest thing, I think, for the genre.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. So your position in Studio Camelia is creative direction and studio operations. So does that mean that everything flows through you? So like there's everybody at the top of the chain, but you're the end point of the funnel that says yes or no, or pretty much says we're going to do this, or we're going to do this my way, or is it all like more team focused, or?
Kind of. Let's say that I have the initial vision for the game, but I'm not an artist. I am not a game developer, a programmer, I mean. And I am not an expert in every domain. So I'm relying heavily on the team and their expertise in order to make the best game possible. Everybody in the team can have some suggestions, and well, depending on where we are in the production, we look at them, we see if they are feasible, if they are aligned with the main vision of the game, and how much time it's going to take to produce. So I would say it's quite an open environment, but still with being capable of maintaining a scope and making sure that we can ship the project on.
Sure. Yeah, that's more than understandable, and I like that you can be transparent. As of course you're the person at the very top, and it's like it's a collective idea at this point, because you have the initial vision, but finding other people that are like-minded is I suppose difficult as well. So, describe to me the process of like actually reaching out to people and finding people, because I've had a look on your website. I mean, you've got a pretty decent team that are helping you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about 12 people on your team by the looks, and then you're obviously reaching out for some extra help, which we'll get to later in the interview here. But I mean, how do you go about finding these people? Are these all contacts that you've had in the industry over the years, or are you just? I mean,
kind of. Actually, so I started alone on the project because I was tired of waiting for some other potential co-founders that would be ready to take this big leap of faith with me, because it means saying farewell to having a pay every month and everything. So being at Ubisoft at the time, it was quite hard to find some people who first loved JRPGs and second wanted to leave their jobs. So it was almost mission impossible. So I was like, no, I just don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to ask for permission, so I'm going to start alone. And so I was by myself at the beginning. And then once I got a vision for Alzara that I was happy with, I just, sent out messages on Twitter saying, hey, I'm looking for a game designer, I'm looking for a programmer. And in Montpellier, there is this great ecosystem of game developers. And so we meet up every month. And so progressively, I was able to meet with like-minded people who wanted to start a company as well. And so we became a small team of 4 people. We worked on a prototype, unpaid. It was really like bootstrapping, the startup thing. I like to say I hate that. And so thanks to this prototype, we were able to show it to investors who gave us actual money so that we could pay ourselves, we could recruit the first team members. And so progressively, we grew the team. And thanks to being in the industry for more than 10 years, of course, you get to know some people. And so, I was put in touch and approached by developers who were interested in our project. And once we got enough security and budget to hire them, we were able to recruit and to grow the team to the 14 people we are at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And I like knowing the behind the scenes, because I'm sure a lot of people might query, like, okay, how do you get this initial concept to the point where it's in development for 2 or 3 years or 1 or 2 years prior to the Kickstarter? Because I mean, you already have, I assume, like a working game at the moment, but it's just still in active development. So when it's hitting Kickstarter now, it's, I would assume, partially playable, and then you're just using that to get it over the finish line. So Alzara has been in development for about 2 years, 3 years now. Or it's from idea to Kickstarter.
If you really think about when we kickstarted, it was end of 2021, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's not like we were in full production the whole time. We needed the time to recruit the team, to secure funding. So this took more time, of course, and so we couldn't be at full speed in terms of development. Now we have a vertical slice, and we are the Kickstarter is here at a point where we are capable of switching to production and to grow also the team, because we are going to need to recruit a few additional people.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, I love the idea of doing Kickstarters. I think now most people are beyond the point of looking at a Kickstarter and thinking, well, is that really going to be a bit of a wash or not? I mean, like, looking by your track record, everything looks really great. So people can back this with confidence. It's like, yes, we're going to get something here, and it looks really great. Now, this just went live at the point of the recording right now. So it's the 23rd of May for me. This just went live under a week ago or so. It described to me the feeling of like actually hitting go live on a Kickstarter campaign. Like I've personally done one Kickstarter campaign before, and every time a backer would come up backing the project on my phone, I'd be like, "Oh my goodness!" It's like the boost of joy that you want to see, and it's great to do that. But describe to me the feeling of like, okay, we're going live right now, and then we're sending out all of our tweets and everything. Like how does that feel for you?
It's really like you're announcing your game again and again. I had I had a similar feeling when we were at E3 2015 and we announced Ghost Recon Wildlands at a Ubisoft event. And I felt so overwhelmed because at the time I was the community developer for the project. So I was seeing comments live from the community. And the situation with launching our Kickstarter for Alzara was kind of similar because, well, so just to tell you the anecdote, so we were the full team in a conf call, and I was screen sharing, the Kickstarter page, and so you have a button like "I'm ready to go live,"
Yep.
and so everybody was like, "Oh, drum roll!" And so I was like, "Yeah, are you ready? Are you recording?" So yeah, so I'm pushing the button. Everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah!" And the page is loading. And there is actually another page asking you to tick some boxes, before you go live. I was like, "Oh shit!" False hope. Okay, so now is the good time. So let's do it. I think Marlene got that on camera.
That's funny.
That was quite fun, with the stress of everything coming down to a point where okay, so we have all the comms ready, all the Kickstarter page is live, the website is updated, and that kind of stuff. It was a bit like a beehive, where everything is starting to be put in pieces progressively up until we are all ready. I must say, I think it went pretty smoothly because, well, we've got the experience, of announcing stuff in marketing and stuff. Of course, you always have some unknown stuff arriving on the way. But, well, so far it went pretty well. But yeah, it's a very intense feeling. And I think the first couple of days, I was like, there's so many solicitations everywhere. People want to thank you, to congratulate you, and you're like, yes, thank you, but I don't know what to say. You're a bit like paralyzed because you have the joy of being funded, seeing that the community loves your project, and that the project you've been working on for more than 2 years is actually live, and you can talk about it, and so. Yeah, this is one of the best feeling, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And like I've like I said earlier, I managed to watch a handful of videos from other content creators, and everybody seems to be really ecstatic about it. But describe for you like the response that you've had. I mean, I would assume it's mostly, if not all, positive. I mean, considering was it funded within 48 hours? That was it. That was
48 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the more as we were asking for 100,000 euros. So, you have some people who tell you, "Oh, maybe it's a bit too much. You should do a bit lower." And you're like, "Yeah, but actually, the project is what it is. Like, it's a big project in terms of budget. So it needs to be aligned with what we ask in terms of stretch goals." But yeah, the reception was great. And actually for us, it was also a test, we're making a game, and so we've had been teasing, sharing concepts here and there, but it is actually the first time that people are capable of seeing actual gameplay from the game. And up until the reveal, we still didn't know if players would actually like it. And so given the feedback we got, that was really overwhelmingly positive, we're very confident, and this gives us a lot of energy for what's coming next.
Yeah, well, this is probably the reassurance that I suppose maybe you didn't need, but it's really good for you just as fuel to keep going, because I suppose when you're doing anything and you're developing anything, you tend to be in your own bubble. And then when you finally show it to the public, you can kind of get a good idea for how people are going to perceive it and receive it. And the response has been really, really wonderful. It's great. I'm so happy for you that it was funded within like 48 hours, because I was following you guys on Twitter before the Kickstarter campaign went live, and you were tweeting some of the influences, like a 10-second snippet of the music. Can you guess the composer? And then there was like another tweet like that was kind of like a Golden Sun logo thing. And I'm like, what is this going to be? And then when I finally see it, it's like, this is amazing. I love the vibe. Now, at the beginning of the program, I asked you about your favorite games, and you mentioned Golden Sun and Final Fantasy. So these are kind of at the forefront of influences for the game? I think at some point somewhere you also mentioned like Lost Odyssey and Persona.
Yeah.
I mean, like, tell me about how you incorporate some of those influences in your game.
Well, there are a lot of influences on Alzara up until it becomes its own unique game. So I like to say as an intro, we got inspired by those games, but in the end, it becomes a game in itself, like in the sense that it's not Golden Sun, it's not Final Fantasy X, it's not Lost Odyssey, it's its own gameplay and battle system. And you can find some similarities with some other JRPGs. So for Golden Sun, the inspiration is here about the 4-element thing, the art direction that is very vibrant and colorful. We wanted also our game to be really colorful in opposition to all the gray and dull games that you see nowadays. You could see some similarities with Final Fantasy X in the way the 3Cs work in the game, but there is also some similarities with the swap system and the fact that in Final Fantasy X you can switch with another partner. But the swap system is very unique for us because it adds also the notion of sharing, which is actually a central theme for the game. And every time we design something for Alzara, of course, we have some benchmark, we have some inspiration from some other games, but we infuse to it our vision and what we want to make with it. And really, a key central word for it is sharing. And so sharing actually rules every design that we make for the game. Lost Odyssey. So the inspiration was on the Churro battle, but you can also actually find that in Suikoden. So it's inspirations. You can find similarities everywhere, but in the end, it becomes our own game with its own codes, and really with sharing being really central to what we design.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too many people look at something. I know it was very prevalent with Sea of Stars when they were doing their Kickstarter campaign. It's like people were saying it's the spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger, and it's like then people start drawing comparisons, and then people get upset because it's not Chrono Trigger 2. I think people might get too ahead of themselves and need to lower expectations. Like I love that this is inspired by these games, but I also look forward to playing Alzara, which is Alzara, and quite uniquely Alzara. I mean, of course, in any game you can see influence. Like Final Fantasy was inspired by Dragon Quest. You don't see that and think, oh, this is from this or what. Like, you just play it for what it is and enjoy it for what it is, I suppose.
Definitely. And you never know, Well, I've seen some videos about people saying that we are the spiritual successor of Golden Sun, and I'm super honored that
no
people
pressure.
say that about us. But yeah, no pressure. Like, are we going to be able to do that? No, I'm not sure. It's our game is not Golden Sun. We don't have any genie system or anything. Yeah. It's an inspiration, and that's all it is. And well, actually, I would love to be able to develop Golden Sun 4, for instance.
Of course.
Just but you never know. If Alzara is very successful, maybe we can find some opportunities, some contracts that may arise. I think I would love, and many people in the team would actually.
I'll take that. Golden Sun 3 ended on a cliffhanger, and so I'm still been waiting for.
Right. So
still waiting. What are those weird vortexes? What are those doing there? They just ended. So at what point in your development cycle do you decide that you need a Kickstarter, or it was discussed as we should look at a Kickstarter? Like, for people who have absolutely no idea, what benefit does the Kickstarter do for your game? Because as you mentioned, the ball's already rolling. You've had people investing in it. You have a full team. Like, what do you do with the funds once you get all those? And I suppose you kind of described that a little bit in the campaign, but for those listening, yeah.
So the funds are going to be used for production, minus all the taxes and things from the Kickstarter takes. But why did we do a Kickstarter campaign? So basically, like I said earlier, we still hadn't had the opportunity to test with the community how much they would like the game. So the Kickstarter was a way for us to check if people like what we are doing and to decide on, okay, shall we continue or should we pivot or do something else? It's important, I think, to be able to test early how people welcome your game, because you're not going to spend 5 years developing something that nobody ends up wanting. So yeah, we wanted to try that early. And also, I mentioned that earlier, but I used to be a community developer. And so working hand in hand with the community is something that is very dear to me. And so the Kickstarter was also a way for us to awake this community, to have some people gather on our Discord server. And well, we will see what the future entails, but I would love to be able to, have some discussion with the fans and be able to ask them some questions, some interrogations we may have about the game. We will see about that. And there was also another thing is that, you said earlier, JRPGs are a niche, and I think that's what most publishers or investors think, because they don't know the genre very well. And so when we were pitching Alzara last year, we saw that some publishers were a bit hesitant because they considered it a niche. So the Kickstarter is a way for us to prove that actually people are going to buy this game. And so this puts us in a situation where we have been capable of proving that there is an interest for the project. And this is really strong for us.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you do that, because the worry is that people do see it as a niche. Like, to me, JRPGs, it's my favorite thing of all time. Like, my favorite games are JRPGs. And at one point, recently I just accepted, like, it's like almost just like a lifestyle. Like, I just love throwing myself into these bigger games that deal with larger themes that you can't really have in some AAA games. I mean, these longer experiences allow you to tell these bigger, more grandiose stories and share themes of like sharing and friendship and all the themes that are important to you, like you've got listed on your site and the Kickstarter as well. So I think this has come at a really great time, because there's just no bigger developers taking risks like this, and people want stuff like this. This is why I think you've had a great response so far, because people are hungry for these kind of games.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the hardest thing that you found so far in development? Is like, are there any hurdles that you've struggled to get over or are struggling to get over? I mean, is there any great ideas that you've had that you just have considered too far out of scope, or everything's just kind of been controlled so far?
I think the hardest thing for me was, well, I've been working in the gaming industry for 10 years, but this is the first time that I am the CEO of a company. So learning the ropes of what it means to manage a business, I don't wish that to my worst enemy, to be honest. It's especially in France, because there is a lot of paperwork, but also the managing people's expectation about your project is something that can be quite tricky sometimes. But overall, I'm very grateful for the team that is composing the studio, because they really are great people. It's a bunch of silly people, but really they're great, and we're all passionate. And what brings us all together is, of course, this passion for the genre, but also the will to impulse our values to the gaming industry and to demonstrate that we can make game in a sustainable way and also make games that people are gonna love. So yeah, I had troubles at the beginning, managing the uncertainty that the position gives you, being a CEO. You don't have answers to everything, and sometimes you have to create your own answers. So I think that was the hardest thing to learn for me. But I think I got quite used to it. Sometimes it's not easy, but I'm really, really grateful for the team that we have, because when you're feeling a bit down, you can talk to anybody, and everybody's got each other's back, and we are clear on the vision. We know where we want to go. We know what we want to achieve, and I think that's the best feeling in the world. To know that you are really all moving in the same direction, and you feel the same motivation and passion to create this game. So yeah, that's very precious.
Yeah, and I think themes like that will roll into the game because there's a funny thing. Like I've worked in recording studios a lot before, and when you're recording a singer and you tell somebody to sing it while they're smiling, listeners can hear that. And it's kind of a loose metaphor, but if you guys are all happy and you have this camaraderie while you're developing the game, people will play that game and then feel that feeling of that familial feeling, or that feeling of passion and happiness that you have while working on it. That will be translated over to the game, and like so far, I mean, it seems like you have this good sense of camaraderie with your team. It's okay if you don't know all the answers. You can turn to each other and help each other in developing this game. So this is a really great experience for not only just you as the creative director, but like everybody else at Studio Camelia, and now the Kickstarter, because that's kind of like an extended part of the studio, I suppose, because they're backing your game, and you can get live feedback from them and incorporate all that stuff. That's really great. There is this very sense of transparency and again, sharing that main theme that you have is really great. Now the game has a big Mediterranean flair to it. What? How do you come up with that theme? Was there just kind of you found that games aren't set in this specific style, or you just something you may have had something else in mind? I'm curious to know about that.
Well, so it was back in 2021. We were thinking about the visual inspiration for the game. So I knew that I wanted to have something colorful with a vibrant color palette, and we had this theme of sharing that was already there. And so we thought, okay, so in terms of inspiration, what region of the world really encompasses that? And actually, the answer came very fast because, well, the studio is based in Montpellier, which is near the Mediterranean Sea. When you look at the gaming industry and the games, there are not that many games that are taking place in a Mediterranean country. Yeah. Or you are going to see maybe ancient civilizations like the ancient Rome or Greece or Egypt. But there are not that many games that are set in a Mediterranean biome. And even more when you talk about JRPGs. You may find some tropical stuff with Chrono Cross, maybe. You may have a city that is inspired by Venice, like in Final Fantasy 15. But that's all it is. It's just a city. And the Mediterranean is so much richer than that. And there is so much diversity of cultures and people. And, well, our game is about sharing, so... And it's all the Mediterranean region is also the how you call that, the cradle of humanity, like with the Fertile Crescent. So it made so much sense. It's actually a place in the world where there is so much mixes of cultures and everything. And so, yeah, it came a bit like an evidence that it would be for us a strong way to distinguish ourselves, while also staying true to kind of our origins, all the while making still a fantasy world. The game is not taking place in an actual Mediterranean country. It's really an entire fantasy world inspired by the Mediterranean region.
That's great. I like that. It's very bright. I'm sure there are, elements to the world that we will see that may be a little bit darker in tone. But overall, the visual aesthetic is very bright. And I like that because it is a good contrast from other maybe AAA games that just seem to be really dark and just drab and just, I don't know. So it's nice to see something bright and colorful and just very visually pleasing with the color tones that you're using as well. Now, I'm curious, what I've had for feedback, because I put on my Discord, like, are there any questions? Some of the takeaways I've had is that people are very impressed that you've been able to reach out to Motoi Sakuraba from Golden Sun He did the composition there. So going further with that Golden Sun influence, tell me about reaching out to probably one of the best composers out there. Like, I mean, I just think that's so great. I mean, that was the first thing that my eyes darted to when I looked at the Kickstarter page. I'm like, oh, Golden Sun, like, that's great. So tell me about reaching out to him and, trying to get some work together like that.
Well, it all comes down to the community, actually. So, when I was a teenager, I was writing articles on a fan site called Fan Fancy Dream. And this gave me the opportunity to interview some developers from Square Enix,
nice.
And also to make friends among JRPG players. And among those friends, actually, some of them, like me, ended up working in the gaming industry. And so when came the time to start the studio, I knew that I wanted to work with Japanese creators. So as for Motoi Sakuraba, I saw the Kickstarter for Sacrifier. And it's also a JRPG, and they got a score composed by Motoi Sakuraba. And so I was like, well, I guess these guys, I found a way to work with them. So I looked at I did some research, and so I found that they were working with an external company that I actually knew from the community. So I was like, hey, I saw that you were working with Motoi Sakuraba. Is there a way to work with him? And they said yes. And so we reached out to Sakuraba-san, asked him to compose the main theme, and he was very quick. I was really impressed because in less than a week we got the first version for the main theme. And, I put my headphones, I listened to it, and I was, first notes, I was like, yes, this is it. This is what we need for the game. I started crying because I got so emotional. I'm a huge fan of Sakuraba, and yeah, listening to the main theme was, it really was a key moment of the production for me.
It's funny because when you put those initial posts on Twitter teasing, like, who do you think is composing this? Some of the replies actually got it. And I'm like, interesting. But I can only imagine I just can't imagine how you feel, because I remember being a kid and buying, my father buying me Golden Sun and putting it in my Game Boy Advance, and you see the Camelot logo, and you see Mount Aleph, and then you hear the Golden Sun theme. Fast forward like 20 some odd years later, that composer's working on your game. Like, I can only imagine the amazing feeling that you have.
Yeah. And he actually tweets about it, and you're like, what? What's going on?
Small world. That's really crazy.
Yeah.
So the next stretch goal is having him do the entire soundtrack. I'll have you know that I backed this a couple of hours ago, because I feel very passionate about this, and I love this, and I want to see that happen. I love the stretch goal of that. So I'm sure with 22 days left, I mean, where you're at right now, it's pretty much a lock. So when thinking about music of the soundtrack, what I suppose we can just talk about the main theme, because nothing else is really spoken for, I suppose, for him working on stuff. Do you have to give an idea or a pitch of, this is what the game looks like, this is where it's set, can you use these themes, or do you just say, you just do what you want to do?
So first we introduced him to Alzara. So he got the creative vision document for the game, and I did a specific section about the music, the background music. And so what we want to have for our game is really, how to say that, like nowadays, when you are playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for instance, the music is here, but it's really a background. You cannot hum it any longer.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of missing that. So when I briefed Sakuraba-san, I told him, we want the game to have memorable themes and musics that players can potentially sing along to while they're playing, because I used to do that all the time when I was playing a JRPG, and especially on the Sakuraba's composition. So I said him, this is the ambitions we have. This is the kind of melodies we want to hear. Like they must be full of hope, because our heroes are fighting against an invasion and they want to establish peace again. So we need the music to be full of hope, to be positive, and to reflect what's happening in the world. And we also sent him a description of some other compositions from some other composers, or also from his previous work of, we like that in Baten Kaitos, for instance, or we like that in Chrono Cross. We also gave him some Japanese composers on classical music, actually, to give him some various references. So that's for the overall briefing for the game, and so that's how he came up for the main theme. We have already some budget to cover a few musics with Sakuraba-san, and so when we brief him for a specific music, we of course give him the brief about the game, but we also send him a kind of playlist of sounds we like. And of course, every time we send him a brief, we say, but actually you can do how you feel like it, because you receive the main theme and you're like, okay, so now I'm in a position where I have to give feedback to Motoi Sakuraba, like, what?
That's hard.
Like, it's so weird. So what can you say? What can you say to him? Like, the music is awesome. So you're like, oh yeah, can you please add a note here, or maybe change this? But I was feeling so, illegitimate to do that, because wow, that's Motoi Sakuraba. But yeah, from the pieces that he composed so far, we've been really happy with what he came up with. So I'm pretty confident with what's coming up next.
That's awesome. And one of the tiers has the soundtrack on vinyl, which a lot of people love. There's a big vinyl community within the video game fan base. It's huge. So I hope that tier goes off very well for you. And I'm with 22 days left, I cannot wait to hear what else he has in store. In going further with art and direction and stuff like that, I mean, the character art looks gorgeous, and I know what you're going for, because it reminds me of, when you see Golden Sun 1 and 2, you see the characters on the back of the box, you see the characters in the guidebook and the manual. Like, it has that flair to it. I'm sure that's intentional, but at the same time, the art was done by Yoshihiro Abe. Was done like Genshin Impact and Fire Emblem. Like that's, I'm sure that's another industry connection that you may have had. But like, how do you reach out to somebody like that again? And then how do you describe the vision that you have and then refine? I suppose it's maybe a matter of finding somebody with the style that you like initially, and then pitching the idea, and then just collaborating back and forth.
Yeah, same thing here. I wanted to work with a Japanese creator, and I made a list of 5 creators. Yoshihiro Abe was on top of my list because of his previous work. And so same thing, a friend from the community who speaks Japanese, who's been in touch with several artists, got in touch with him, said, hey, by any chance, could you reach out to Yoshihiro Abe? And yeah, we got a yes from him very quickly. And so when we brief on this end, so what we do, so same as Sakuraba, he received a brief about the game, our intentions. And for Keira, for instance, the main character, we sent him a brief with a first rough of a character, where we ask him, can you please draw this in your own style? And we send him also some references in terms of patterns. For Keila, for instance, her outfit is inspired by the Minoan civilization. So we sent him references of fabrics, patterns, jewels, hair references as well. We sent him also references from some other characters so that he can get a sense of who they are. We send them a narrative brief about the character. And so then after that, it's back and forth on the first version we receive, and we improve on that progressively.
It's gorgeous. I mean, I know it's going to sound great, but visually it looks great. I mean, that's just the character, like the key art, but the actual visual aesthetic of the game is really good as well. I love that. It has its own unique thing. I mean, it's just, it's very eye-catching, and just in terms of, it's the whole package for me, honestly, and that's why I'm very excited about it. I've only got a couple more questions here for you because I'm aware of time here. I want to keep it under the hour mark just for your sake, because I'm sure you're very, very busy. I look forward to seeing where this Kickstarter goes. I mean, as of right now, 22 days left. We have the English voice acting almost funded. I'm only seeing like 237,000 Australian dollars, so I can't see the conversion to euros, but I know we're close to English voice acting, and then Sakuraba on the entire soundtrack. Any hints for what the final stretch goal is? I'm sure you can't. I'm sure you can't tell, so I understand. But
oh wow. Well, actually, it's going to depend a lot on when we reach the English voice acting goal, when we reach the Sakuraba for the entire soundtrack goal. We have a list of stretch goals, and we adjust them depending on where we are in the campaign, you know. It's we just want to make sure that we are capable of producing what we promise in the Kickstarter campaign. So we see depending on how the campaign evolves. So yeah, I think it's too early to share information on that side.
No, that's fair enough. But at least you have a plan.
Yes, we do.
of stuff. Well, of course, you would have to. So I'm excited to see what's next. What for my last question? What kind of expectations do you have for this project? I mean, personally, and for how people will receive it. So, like, once everything's done and you ship the game, I mean, I'm sure you'll feel a certain sense of relief. But what sort of expectations do you have for the game once it's all done, and how you're going to feel about it?
Well, we hope the community will love it. We have some other players who've never played JRPGs may be interested in trying our games, because we want to bring some freshness as well. We want this game actually to become kind of the stepping stone for the studio, to kind of a proof that, hey, we love JRPGs, we know what we're doing, this is our tribute to the genre. Let us produce some more JRPGs so that you can enjoy them again and again and again. Yeah, this is really the first step for us. I really see the studio maybe growing, having several productions at the same time, but still, you know, making JRPGs that players would love, and that we can potentially build together in the future. Yeah,
that's great. And I really believe in what you're doing. And this is why I wanted to, get you guys interviewed, and I'll have this out tomorrow, Friday, because it's time sensitive, of course, for a Kickstarter campaign. So anybody who's listening or watching, you can check the relevant links down below or whatever. Please go back it, even if you don't want to get any tiers, because you do have a thank you tier. So every little amount goes a long way. And I really love supporting smaller creators like this with this kind of vision, and coming from this kind of background as well, wanting to set their own precedent after branching off from AAA things and just kind of paving your own way and doing it your own way. It's really great, and I really believe in what you're doing. So all the best with that. I'm very excited. So I hope all the tiers, all the stretch goals get funded. And yeah, I'm very excited for 2026 for the release.
So we are. Thank you very much, Erek.
That's so good.
Great
Thank you.
Talking with you.
Thank you. So there's the interview. Thank you again to Emma from Studio Camelia for taking the time to talk with me about this game. I'm super excited about it. And it's really great for those of you who don't know what goes into a Kickstarter or what the lead up is, to learn about that and kind of understand that there's just a lot going on before you even hit live on Kickstarter. So if you guys are interested in the game, check out the Kickstarter link down below. But I hope this gets, even more funded, because there's some really great stretch goals that I would love to see happen. So thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review on Spotify and Apple. And we'll see you again on the next one. Thanks for watching.